Battle Line Podcast, huge thanks to our listeners who checked out our last episode with Sarah Adams talking about really behind the scenes of what went on in Benghazi. A lot of you are hearing this, if you're hearing this the day it's released on September 12th. So, of course, we pay our respects to the men lost in Benghazi, Sean Smith, Ambassador Stevens, Ty Woods, and Glenn Doherty. And we get into more of this with Sarah on this episode. Before we get into all of that, I'm going to go a little bit off script here and talk about Ned, because Ned has two great new products. They actually have right now the Brain Blend, which is a 750 milligram dosage. So this is like very powerful. I've taken it and I love it now. Anything with full spectrum hemp, I actually do take at night. So I would still recommend taking it before you go to sleep. But the difference between the Brain blend and just the daily blend or the full spectrum hemp is that it's got great nootropics in there. It's got the ginkgo biloba and other nootropics, just great formula of stuff that is going to help you in your everyday life in terms of your focus. And I've actually gotten really into nootropics lately. So I'm glad they put out a product like this that also meshes with the full spectrum hemp. So like I said, take that before you go to sleep, because the full spectrum hemp still does make me a little bit tired. Some people take it during the day. I have, but I still like taking any CBD products at night personally, and you'll feel those effects as you regularly take it. So great product, the Brain Blend. Take that. And then the other new product is the Relief Balm. I love this stuff. It is so powerful. It's 2 ounces, so it's a bigger dosage right there in terms of just the size of it, bigger than a lot of the other Relief Balms that you're going to get in the store. But it's really powerful. I first put it on because I was standing all day at a concert after from my friend my friend Mark from Electrocutioner, who's a listener of the show, and his wife Amanda, and that was after like working out. So it was a lot of standing and working out that day. I got home and I was like, man, my back is sore. I'm going to use this Ned Relief Balm. You first put it on and it's got not only the menthol in there but the hemp as well. And I was like, all right, I'm not feeling anything too powerful. It wasn't like that kick of menthol, but then about a minute later you really feel it. It's a great relief. And I woke up like completely refreshed between the Brain Blend and the new Relief Balm. So check it out. It's great. Make it a part of your daily or nightly ritual. These products are science-backed, nature-based solutions that offer an alternative to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Full transparency. Ned shares third-party lab reports, who farms their products, and their extraction process, all right there on their site. Ned's CBD products have over 2,000 5-star reviews. I love them. Whether you just want to do the full spectrum hemp, the daily blend, or the new Brain Blend, go for it. And that Relief Balm cannot be beat. This is like the best product on the market in terms of a relief balm. So become the best version of yourself and get 15% off as a new customer with Ned and all their products with code BattleLine. Go to helloned.com/battleline or enter BattleLine at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/battleline to get 15% off. Thank you, Ned, for sponsoring our show and offering our listeners a healthy alternative for some of life's most common health issues.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
Match is on, Battle Line podcast, and everyone has been anticipating part 2 since last week with Sarah Adams. I mean, the show, as Sarah and I were saying before we hit record, is getting like a tremendous response. I really do need to thank Sarah Carter from Fox News for retweeting out stuff, and Andrew Wilkow. And, you know, as of now, that video has like, I think it's like 50,000 views or something. It's crazy, but I think people are learning a lot from it. And I think, it's important that that information is out there. I will say that when people are hearing this, it's going to be Monday. It's going to be September 12th. So it'll be a day after 10 years since the attack, and also 21 years since 9/11, 2001. And so this is a pretty significant day before we even get into the details of the book or anything else.
Yeah, man. I think I'll be driving home actually the day that this is going, because I'm doing a vodka signing, a Tonto vodka signing. But it's at a friend of mine's. He owned an old it's I think it's cliche. Old army buddies, they own bars everywhere. That's just how we were getting that. So I'm going to a friend of mine. He owns a bar in Minnesota, and he actually stocks the vodka. He actually got it into the state of Minnesota. So I feel obligated, but I also want to, because he's a good friend, go to his bar and, you know, just do some signings, book signings, and just hang out with him. And
by the way, that's Paul previously from Maxim. Sig. He's been on with us.
He's been on with us. Paul Braun, who Army guy, spent a lot of time in Basra, had his own episodes in Basra that him and his team went through. So yeah, I'll be there, and looking forward to another good episode, and hopefully, if Sarah doesn't let us down, you know, it may be, you never know. It could, that first one's good. She may hit the bar right down here. You know, I don't know.
Killing me, Smalls.
You can't ever depend on her. I'm kidding. She's going to do awesome. And I know from what you said, it really was shocking for I know a lot of our listeners, a lot of stuff, people that even were there, like myself, didn't even know. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the select committee stuff was, because, you know, I spent a lot of time. That was a Benghazi in itself, just going through that stupid bullshit for 3 years with Rogers Committee, and then it getting out there, and Adam Schiff and Adam Smith attacking us, and then me and Oz, actually, I remember that going on Fox. And one thing I do remember at Fox, going on against Adam Smith, and just really just calling him a liar on national TV, the congressman from Washington, and then of course it's set up with Trey's committee, which Sarah sat on. Which I bet there's a ton of shit that she could tell us if she can.
And I know that we'll focus on some other things, as you know, I was texting with Sarah yesterday, because we can't get into that completely. But before we even get into any of that, I mean, Sarah, for you, any reflections on this 10 years later, and like I said, 21 years later from the other 9/11 that you know most people do know more of?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually interesting when you compare the two, right? The same kind of individuals were involved, but in 2001, you could say it was Al-Qaeda, right? In 2012, you couldn't say it was Al-Qaeda. So that's a very huge shift when they were our enemy. And now it's like, hey, you can't say that they're enemy. You got to choose someone else as their enemy. So that's really concerning. And, you know, I actually realized after the episode, I should have brought something up that would have been interesting to Tonto. So when we were talking, Tonto, about the camp you went to, the Rafal al-Sahaba.
Yeah.
And the fact that you probably saw Boubacar, I forgot to tell you at the time, you realized Boubacar was involved in the incident in Fallujah that killed your 4 Blackwater brothers.
Oh yeah, that's what killed Halveston and Slavko and and Zavko and the other two. I didn't know the other two guys, but I mean, he's really the one that, if you want to say, kicked off the huge VBIED assault ambush wars against contractors. That was him, man. So I didn't know that. So I'll be honest, I didn't know he was behind that as well. I just knew that AQI was responsible for that. And so that's what's huge with me. It still kills me literally and figuratively about Benghazi, is that, you know, we had the 10-digit grid on that guy, and we're the ones that got in trouble for finding it, which was totally unbelievable. I mean, I didn't know that. So it's good to know now, and it does get some closure to it. But it also is good because you're bringing it forth, and hopefully there is even closure within that dirty cesspool called Northern Virginia up there. Sorry for all you people that live there. I know there's great people there, but the organizations that are there in Northern Virginia, which includes DC, No, it's a cesspool. People have no integrity, no ethics at all. And I think we're obviously finding more and more out about that just with us talking to you. So yeah, I didn't know that really it pisses me off, not to the extent I'm gonna be pissed off for years, but it's like, dude, really?
Yeah, we keep seeing these same guys. I used to joke when I worked the Taliban, it's like, we're going to capture these guys in 3 years. Someone else is going to be chasing after them, right? It's just this constant. But I actually have some good news today. So 3 hours and now 8 minutes ago, a Benghazi attacker was killed. Another one.
Are they?
Wow.
They got it. How? How?
In Libya, there's a gentleman named General Haftar,
Okay.
and he runs the Libyan National Army. It's basically an opposition force to the government of Libya. We can get all into the government of Libya.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're basically the counterterrorism force in Libya. He's pretty much the best counterterrorism official in the entire world right now. Like everyone should be learning from him.
Wow.
So yeah, 3 hours ago, they killed another one of our attackers. He's taking out of the attackers that are dead. The majority of them have been killed by Haftar. Since it was just a few hours ago, I have not seen him at least announce it yet. He usually doesn't say what they were involved in, right? So that'll just be the name. But yeah, and he took an attacker off the battlefield today, put him on the X. So, just something to celebrate. I know it's not the US doing it, but at the end of the day, we just want these attackers gone so they can't keep killing other people. He ended up being aligned with ISIS in later years, causing a lot more havoc. So it's just something that, at the time of the attacks, he was Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Islamic Maghreb. So he was one of our AQM guys at the attack. So anytime, Haftar takes out an Al-Qaeda guy too from that time, it's pretty exciting.
Do we recognize Haftar, or do we support him at all, or he's just doing it all on his own? We got nothing, we're no way backing him or nothing.
Unfortunately, it's very, so I'll just start from the beginning. So the government of Libya, as you know, funded the militias in Benghazi. So a lot of people don't understand this. So they were funding the guys who attacked us. Like they got money every month from the government of Libya to do their thing. Now, the same attackers, the ones still alive, they got pushed out of Eastern Libya by this General Haftar because he was like, enough was enough in 2014. And he's like, I'm going to clear Benghazi of the terrorists. And like, it was a full on war. He lost thousands and thousands of people. So the ones who did survive moved to Tripoli. And now they're in Tripoli, still funded by the government of Libya. And then they're fighting against Haftar. But as you know, we support the government of Libya.
Yeah.
So we're basically supporting the government that supports the terrorists who attacked us. And it's even worse. So these terrorists, they don't really have to work, right? Because the government of Libya gives them money, but they get money also from the government of Qatar and the government of Turkey because they train attackers to send to Syria. So they first get money when they kind of facilitate terrorists, and then they get paid a second time when they send them to Syria. So they get 5,000 a head for every trained terrorist they send to Syria from Libya. So it's like this whole money scheme where the Benghazi attackers are just, piling in the dough, and it's the dough from foreign governments. So that's really concerning. So yeah, so Haftar is the opposition to this basically terrorist-led government. We, of course, support the Islamist and terrorist government because we always choose the wrong side. And when we realize we choose the wrong side, we don't just say, shoot, we made a mistake, let's do what's right. We double down.
We double down and give him more money and give him more weapons.
There's so many lies about him. It's really funny. A few years ago, a bunch of terrorists took over the old station in Tripoli.
No way.
I mean, I know right after they left Tripoli, there was some great video that came in. They were jumping off.
I remember that.
But then they went in, and about 3 years ago, they took over the compound. And so he bombed it, and he killed a bunch of terrorists. The press, even in the United States, said he killed doctors and nurses. So the press against Haftar, especially in the United States, is just assume it's all incorrect, unfortunately. But yeah, so we're on the wrong side, as always, in Libya. And the Libyan people say it too. They think, and then they think, hey, we're the enemy too, right? They're like, hey, US just came in to get involved in this corruption, take advantage of our country. They didn't care about our democracy. They're supporting terrorists. And, it just leaves a really bad taste.
Well, and you're right, because we didn't care about democracy. All we cared about was some political agenda that the Obama administration had going on right at that time. And you're obviously validating that now. But even then, we knew that was our joke. It was just, where are we giving these weapons to? Well, we're giving them right back to the terrorists so they could come attack us with them. And then they could go to Syria and overthrow Assad because we want to support terrorists to overthrow dictators. And the money that was coming in, you never knew where it was going. Honestly, on the GRS side of the house, it's like, it was really hands up. It's like, well, whatever. Yeah, we're here. We're here. We'll do the job. We'll protect you. We'll go find terrorists, even though we get in trouble for it. But in the end, it was a losing battle, we felt. But yeah, we still, people that were watching still do it. We still enjoyed the job. It's still getting out with the people and getting out in towns and meeting everybody and just being in the atmosphere, whether it was super crazy or it was chill because you're getting a coffee, you're getting a Turkish coffee at one of the shops. It was still a fun job to be in and experience. But in the end, yeah, we knew we were making that place worse, but that's what we always do. We always go into a country and make it worse. And then we leave and we say, oh, nah. And then the media, the culprits at the media continue to spin it up for whoever they're fawning for, whoever's at the president of the United States, or whoever's in charge, or whoever's running the show. And they spin it to make it look like we're doing something magnanimous when really all we're doing is destroying and continually destroying lives. So that's sad to hear that the media won't even recognize Haftar, even though, we've been saying for years, and obviously you guys even more so because you knew the background, that he was the good guy. He was the guy that was trying to help us. And then here we are, still funding terrorism. And when I say that, I never said it lightly. I always said, hey, we made ISIS. I firmly believe that we made ISIS. We're the ones that made it, not anybody else. Yeah, AQI, Zakaria. The media can trace it all the way back to that and say, oh, it was Zakaria who made ISIS. Well, no, Zakaria was actually AQI. But if you want to tie those lineage, I guess you could. I said, no, we did. We're the ones by doing exactly what you just said. And then we funded them, and we're funding them, and then we're also giving them weapons. And the Qataris, that's a huge thing too. I was protecting Rob Lowe in Qatar, Doha, at the Doha Vista, and we stayed at the Kempinski Hotel. And I remember staying there. I was there during a break in GRS, my GRS break. I was there in Doha protecting him and some singer, I forget. So she was big at the time. And on the floor above us, the hotel staff would complain all the time, like, oh, these foreigners are in here. And I thought they were talking about us. I'm like, I met him one day, and I was like, guys, what? They're from the UK. Most of them were from the UK, and they were working in Doha at the Kempinski Hotel. And I said, hey, what are we doing? I've been the same, guys. I'm not trashing. And they said, no. They said there's Libyans upstairs. They're upstairs and they're destroying our floor, and they're also repainting stuff. They're wanting us to rechange everything. Well, we had funded, along with the Qatari government, to bring all the families from the Libyan militias, which is who you were talking about. They were living in Doha at the Kempinski Hotel. And if you're an international traveler, you know that the Kempinski Hotel is not a Motel 6. That thing is a freaking top tier level, walled off for the Astoria type hotel. And so we were doing it back then. And that's that was right before the attack. I actually did it right before the attack. I came back to Benghazi. We were actually putting their families up to protect the militias families from retribution. And we were putting them up under our dime and then the Qatari dime. And I should have put two and two together. I really didn't. I just well, we're idiots. Good job, State Department. Good job, Commander in Chief. But at that time, there was stuff going on that honestly I probably should even have brought to your attention, and I just didn't even think about it. I was like, well, we're idiots as usual. Here we go again.
Right. And well, the Qataris is kind of what kind of caused a lot of the conspiracies in Benghazi too. Remember, they were the ones flying in twice a week with their weapons and flying out, and everybody thinks that was the Americans. So there's so many people that said, "Oh, you guys deserve to die. You guys are running weapons over the consulate." I mean, running weapons over the consulate. We weren't even allowed to go down the street. But it was the Qataris, right? But it made everyone thought that was us because things got redacted and nobody actually paid attention to it. And they're like, yeah, they're flying C-7. I'm like, that's not us. I try to explain to people all the time. I'm like, don't you remember John McCain?
Yes.
He wanted to. Our government wanted to not obviously send the weapons out of Benghazi. We're a tiny little shop. It'd be the dumbest thing. But he wanted to get that approved to get weapons and do it, but he wasn't getting it approved, right? He complained about it every day. He had long speeches. And I try to tell people, don't you remember the time? But yeah, it's just people love their conspiracies.
It's nuts. Well, the conspiracy here actually, I think, is true from what I saw and what you saw down there. If the left wing, that they call it a conspiracy, because of course it doesn't go in line with their politicians that they fawn over and they love. But the weapons, the arms, the us supporting terrorists, supporting friendly militias, that was going on. And my question, and I know we're getting to the attack, then we'll get into the select committee stuff. Were we attacked? And I felt like we were weapons that we were giving to AQIM and Ansar Sharia and all the precursors to ISIS. Those weapons, I felt a lot of them were the ones that were coming back at us, that they were attacking us with. That's what they were getting them, or were they just getting them off the Bakara market, or were they? Because those things worked.
Those not really from us. So do you remember the house that me and Tig and then Jack lived in?
We're at in Benghazi? Yeah.
Do you remember when you walked in the living room, what was all in the living room?
Yeah.
Right, we had hundreds and hundreds of boxes of radios. We didn't even get the radios in time to Libya before the revolution ended. So trust me.
That's right.
We did not get our weapons into that country to help anybody. We couldn't even get the radios in before, because the revolution was like February to October. That's it. You know how the government works. I mean, ask Ukraine. We've dropped billions and they're like, hey, we saw lots of money. Where are the weapons? Where are the supplies? Remember, it took them months and months to make like warehouses in Poland. Our government is just slow as hell. So, I mean, weapons used in the Benghazi attacks were obviously weapons from Qatar. You know, they flowed in during the revolution. It's just, they weren't American weapons. I mean, some weapons of ours were stolen, and the attackers in later years used our weapons.
Well, I saw one of our Mercedes in one of their pictures that Jack saw it. He said, "Yeah, that's our Mercedes. They were using it."
Me and Boone ID'd him. So his nickname's Mouse.
Mouse.
To hear his name. He's actually was the right hand to Sufyan bin Kumo, so he was his sidekick. But yeah, he drove that damn car back to Darna. I was like, you drove it to like the shittiest town in the country. Like, of course, everyone's gonna notice and take pictures of it.
That's hilarious. Anyway, I know we're getting into that stuff, but we do want to get into the select committee. So after Benghazi, you came home, you kept working. You decided to do the, help out General Petraeus, give him the letter, IG complaint. I guess that's where we kind of ended. Is that right? Ian, help me out here. For the most part, with the IG letter, what happened after that? And when people started to find out, wait a second, these are my words, not yours, that she's not part of the team anymore. She's not willing to go along with the bullshit story that we're trying to fabricate and that we're putting out to the mainstream media. Did you get blacklisted? What happened?
So my main problem was obviously in Libya, right? So I had troubles at the station when they found out that I informed the director. So basically, the day after the director left, me and then the CT officer from Benghazi and then the reports officer from Benghazi got called in the COS's office, and he grilled us. He's like, "Which one of you told Petraeus?" And so of course I was like, I did. And then the CT officer, him, she's like, "Oh no." And then obviously the reports officer starts crying. And he's like, oh. Anyway, so it was very stressful for the two of them. So I was like, yeah, I did. I don't care. You don't have to come in here and try to like shake us down. And then we got in an argument about it. I won't say all the details. I mean, in later years, he realized it was true, right? So I don't want to like throw a guy under the bus. But so when I left Libya, though, he wrote, so when you leave the country, when you're in the CIA, they write in cable traffic your performance, right? So anyone in the CIA right now can go pull up and see my performance from that trip. So he did write some line in there, like something like "she doesn't fall in line." I thought I was kind of proud by it, but obviously I got back to the US and my boss was like, "You can never go overseas again. People are saying chief of stations aren't going to want you." And so for about a year, I didn't travel because my boss kind of believed, "Oh my God, you're in trouble." And then I started traveling again because, as you discussed, G-Man was in another country and I went out to work with him. And then I went out to work in another Middle Eastern country with another COS who, the thing is, COS is usually asked for me. So I had a good reputation. So I then started traveling again, but it was about a good year that my boss was convinced I was blacklisted from going overseas because of this one comment. And I was like, Now, I wasn't as bothered by it, but I mean, it probably did affect things.
Yeah.
But again, I feel in later years, the person who did that, I think he knew we were right. And I just, like I said, I don't really have any ill will for him.
And I have to wonder, like, going into that, for the audience who might not have checked out part one yet, I mean, Sarah has many years of experience in intelligence and in the CIA. So it's basically you blowing the whistle on something, I guess you could say, and putting your job on the line, putting your life on the line. Is that something that's just always been important to you in terms of integrity, that I have to stand for the truth more so than what's going to help me financially, what's going to help me professionally? Was it just in this moment you said, I have to do the right thing, I'm not going to get in line with what the quote official story is?
Yeah, well, I was kind of known for this. I mean, I wasn't known for being some sort of troublemaker, but everybody knew me by my integrity. There is an incident back, I don't know if you guys remember the Mumbai attacks.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was that? Maybe November 2008.
Yep.
So actually, I got involved in a worse situation, I feel, from an ethical standpoint at that time. Basically, we were getting a lot of pressure from Congress to do something against the attackers. The attackers obviously attacked in India and their Lashkar-e-Taiba. They're kind of Kashmiri militant groups, so they're more in the India-Pakistan border. Gosh, I'm tired. And then not the India-Afghanistan border. I mean, the Pakistan-Afghanistan border where we do operations, right? We were working in Afghanistan. So basically, my boss wanted to lie about a camp over on the Afghanistan side and say it was Lashkar-e-Taiba so we could strike it, and so we could go back to Congress and say, hey, look, CIA is doing something. We carried out the strike. So she comes to me and she says, I want you to write this up to propose it for a strike. And so I say, I'm not writing that up. It's not correct. So I wrote it up and I basically said, hey, here's the location. Here's incorrect information on the location. Here's the correct information. Here's the group in it. And she like pretty much lost it on me, right? So I said, I'm not writing up a nomination and lying, even if it is terrorist. Like, I'm not just going to randomly kill people so you can check a box. So it's crazy. So the next week I went on a week-long CIA training, and you kind of don't really get on your computers then.
Yeah.
You're really immersed, as you know, you're off-site, you're not on. So at the end of the week, I was like, oh, let me check my mails because I had the next Monday off. So I checked my emails, and seriously, she went to another girl on our team who was, of course, a DOD detailee. So it's a different world, right? And CIA, they will push back. DOD people do fall in line and do listen to their bosses. So she went to the one DOD analyst on our team and made her write it up. So I read it and then I call her and I say, hey, this is wrong. And she goes, yeah, well, I kind of know it's wrong, but I'm doing what my boss says. I said, no, you need to pull it. You can't do this. It's like against the law. Like, I'm trying to explain to her that she's breaking the law, right? Like, ethical or not, like, you just can't go kill people. So you make someone happy. She wouldn't pull it back. So of course, then I had to go to all the senior bosses in my department. So I went to it was like the group chief level. Our group chief is pretty famous. He was one of the main guys who got bin Laden. So it was him and then his 4 deputies, and my boss was 1. So I sent it to all of them and I said, this can't go forward. And, I wrote my justification. I put my evidence in there. And luckily, he's an honest man. So he chose one of those other bosses to look into it. She looked into it. You actually know her probably. She worked overseas with us too.
I'm sure.
She looked into it. She came back and said to the senior boss, Sarah's correct. That's not who's at that location. We can't nominate it to strike it. So I luckily can't get the strike canceled. But yeah, my boss was gung-ho online about it. And the crazy part is, this is what is a big problem in the government. She ended up moving on, and eventually she was in charge on the analytics side of a drone shop. So she was in charge of basically making all the nominations for strikes when she lied about a location to do a strike to make Congress happy. So yeah, unfortunately, stuff like this happens. Not very often the CIA. The CIA does have a lot of people with integrity, but every once in a while you get those ladder climbers that want to appease somebody, and you do have to be the person who steps up and says, no, like, we're not going to do this.
And this would actually be, I think, a good transition into, I know what Chris wants to talk about, and I know you're limited on what we can speak about involving the committee. And by the way, people do need to pick up the book, because the book's going to have way more detail than anything we're going to get into in these 2 episodes. So pick up Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy. It'll be out soon. I know it's not out yet, and it's being pushed back longer than we'd like. But I think in terms of corruption in government, in terms of lying in government, that plays right into the Benghazi Select Committee. So yeah, in terms of at least what you could speak about, I think let's at least touch on it.
Sure. Yeah. So I was asked probably the end of 2014 to join the select committee. As Tonto had mentioned, there was a bunch of reports that came out.
Yeah.
And so it was right at the time the report that Mike Rogers' committee came out. And I didn't pay much attention to Congress. So I just assumed that was the same as Trey Gowdy's, right? I was like, what are you talking about? Why would I come work for you? Your report sucked. You didn't even have the right number of Americans. So I ramble on. I ramble on and say, hell no, da 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 da. And it was kind of a short conversation. I did get a follow-up email, like, can you tell me everything that was wrong in that report? So I actually did that for him. I was kind of joking with Boone about it. I'm like, this crazy guy in Congress asked me to come work for him. And he's like, what'd you say? And he's like, oh my gosh, you were so rude to a congressman. I said, no, if they're not doing a good job, then it ain't my fault. He's like, no, it wasn't him. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, if he circles back, I'll entertain it. And maybe like 2 or 3 weeks later, it's funny because he called me a day before I was going to ask the agency if I could go overseas and work on kind of like so I'm one of the people that thought Mullah Omar was in Afghanistan, and I was going to propose to CIA, can I kind of work on a red team, go to where I think he is and collect and like prove that he's in Afghanistan and we can get him there. So yeah, it was the day before I was going to try to propose this crazy idea, and he called me back and I said, okay, I'll come up and meet with your team.
Hope that you guys are enjoying this show with Sarah Adams. Great having her on for part 2. Part 1 did excellent, so we loved having her back. Before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions sponsors every show. Love their stuff. Check out the tin right here if you're watching on video. And if you're watching on video, be sure to subscribe, like, leave us a comment. But this is the Fort Scott Munitions tin. This is the 9mm 80 grain ammo. Great stuff. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue. TUI, that's their trademark, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. You can also find it right there on the website at FSM.com. If you want to buy in store, go to the dealer locator on the website, type in your zip code. You're going to get a dealer right by you. But go to FSM.com and you'll get 15% off your order. That goes for merch, the tins that I just showed you, hats, any of that stuff. You'll get 15% off as a loyal listener to the podcast. So that's only available for listeners of the Battle Line podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battle Line Tactical, and the Battle Line podcast. Once again, FSM.com, promo code Battle Line. Also, this show is sponsored by our great friends at Photonis Defense. We were just talking ammo, and if you're a shooter, you're going to want to get the best night vision out there. Such quality products. It is definitely worth the price that you're going to invest in some great night vision and become master of darkness, as they say. Now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, which is the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users and Border Patrol were learning utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to become master of darkness. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonus Defense Viper monocular with a ruggedized body and harnesses the power of the Echo intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. Visit photonusdefense.com, PHOTONIS defense.com. We have operators in the field, guys who have been on like Justin Sheehan, and then we have CIA like Phil Otto over at Photonus Defense who stand by these products, and they are the best on the market. I'm telling you, if you're going to get night vision, make the investment and don't go anywhere other than Photonus Defense. Photonusdefense.com for more information, or look for Photonus Defense product options from your night vision dealer. With that, let's get right back to Sarah Adams.
It's actually really funny. So I went to meet his team.
And this is Trey that you're having the conversation with Trey.
Trey.
Okay, gotcha.
And now I'm gonna fly up and meet his committee, right? So I know I shouldn't say this public, but it is kind of funny. So I first get to Congress and I've never been there. When you're in the CIA, right, you'll do everything not to go to Congress. And so I lost. There's like multiple basements. I thought I was in the basement. He before me, I wasn't. There was a floor below me when I complained about it later on. But anyway, I sit at a table with a bunch of his staff. There's two really sharp guys on the committee. One was like a congressman's son. You probably met both of them. They both questioned you. Anyway, two sharp guys. But it was funny. The staff director like fell asleep the whole time and was like snoring. The staff director's a really great guy. And, I mean, it was like a bad day, but or I was boring everyone to death, right? Because they were asking me really detailed questions. And so it was funny when I left, Trey's like, do you want to come work on my committee? I was like, no, they want me to come to DC and work in some basement. And I said, and then the guy fell asleep. He didn't even find me interesting. And so we joked about it. And then he pulled the ultimate card and said, I'll let you stay in Florida. Because, Florida is like the greatest state on earth. And so, so he pulled that out of his belt. And I was like, oh, well, if I get to live in Florida, I'd consider it. And so then I ended up joining his committee. So I joined like basically the first week of January in 2015. The problem is, as I mentioned in the last episode, he hired me and I was a Democrat. So the Democrats on the other side of the committee kind of like lost it a bit. It's weird. They had this theory that I knew all these, I had full agency access, but they thought I knew stuff that wasn't happening, right? Like it just didn't exist. And so they thought he hired me to like cover it up for the agency. They had this weird theory. So at first I couldn't work. So I think it was 5 or 6 weeks. I wasn't allowed to do anything, like even touch a computer because the Dems were protesting. Then they made a deal that they would question me under oath. So we did that. And then they went to CIA and asked CIA to have me fired from the committee. So I got pulled into CIA. I was at a table with all the CIA lawyers, with my staff director, the Dem staff people. And then of course the CIA lawyers are like, this is unusual because she worked Benghazi, but we see no issues. So the CIA kind of said, she's not doing anything wrong. We have no problem with it. So CIA didn't oppose me being on the committee, if that makes sense. If anything, the CIA was pretty great to our committee. Everything we asked for, they gave us access to in the CIA, which I agree with. Don't ever hand classified information to Congress. Make them come to your building and read it. Like very smart of you, CIA. So that's what happened. So then finally after that, I was able to start working. It was almost the time the Dems stopped picking on me, but they did this weird thing that they're going to put out like a press release about my time overseas. It was very strange. Like, I don't know if there was going to be like some fake stuff in it, because I was like, okay, if you want to say I was overseas, you got to go get it clear with CIA, because, we can't say the exact locations we were in.
Yeah.
But I guess their write-up had that. And so I said, that's against the law. I mean, if you want to go get it approved, go for it. Like, I didn't know it was all in it, but I know that the leader on the Dem side, oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name this second?
Elijah. Yeah, Cummings.
He was like, guys, this is crazy. And he shot it down. Yeah, I mean, I hope he rests in peace. I mean, you know, it's sad. But anyway, he shot it down. So I didn't have to kind of fight that because he was like, what is this mess? So then after that, after he kind of shot that down, I really wasn't bothered again by the Dems. But the sad part is Trey wanted us all to work together, right? He just wanted to be a joint committee, and all that showed him, right, it was never going to happen. So there's two reports. There's the report we put out, and then the report the Dems put out. The reports the Dems put out is like crazy. It mentions Trump like 100 times. I was like, how is Trump in a report from 2012?
I remember that. Yeah, that was shit. Go ahead.
But you know what else they did, which is nuts? If you were actually following this at the time, you probably have it. They released all the classified debriefings on their website with the redactions, but you could hit the button. It was like the version of Adobe. You could hit the button and take the redactions off. So if anybody downloaded all those reports like that first day, they have every report unredacted.
You know,
right?
Crazy. And that's what killed is that nothing. I remember that. And because I remember this is when I was doing a lot of the news and going on. So I was crossing paths with Adam Schiff all the time, and he was the one that was writing all that. He was the one that was in charge. I know Elijah Cummings was in charge of it, but Adam Schiff was the puppet master on the Dem side. And I was like, holy shit, how are they not getting in trouble for all this? I signed 8 million non-disclosures that I can't even talk about where I left my socks in Benghazi, and they're putting this shit up on all over the world, and nothing is happening to them. Nothing. And I was just like, unbelievable. I was like, this is bullshit. That's what got me so pissed off. I was so angry.
I mean,
all the time.
in Congress, you get those people, right, who want to kind of be dishonest and play. I mean, so the Dems had some of them, as you've mentioned, Schiff and Smith. I mean, they did have Tammy Duckworth. So they luckily, it was a yin and a yang. Obviously, Elijah Cummings.
You're right. Elijah treated me, I said it before, he treated me very well. I didn't have any issues with Elijah Cummings. Behind the scenes, he did other things. He would go on TV and say stuff that didn't happen. But I mean, in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, it was always thank you. You did a tremendous job. In fact, the last conversation I had with him, he shook my hand. He said, hey, we really appreciate what you did. But then again, he went on CNN and said we were lying. So it was always
Congress plays their games. I mean, you know, unfortunately they play the games on both sides, but it was so bad. The Dems were so bad, as I said last time. I left the party. I mean, I'm lazy, so I maybe took a year to leave the party just because had to do paperwork. But yeah, it gave me a bad taste in my mouth. Some of the stuff I saw.
I did, and you're right. Both sides. Mike Rogers, people don't remember him. He was a Republican, guys, and he probably shit on us worse than ever. And I don't think any Democrat actually shit on us worse than he did.
Oh,
and he's a Republican.
It was horrible.
It was terrible.
Factual. I mean, I still have it. It's printed behind me. It is so infactual. Like it's like, where did you guys? It's like they made it all up.
They made it up.
Really,
I know.
Really bad. I mean, whoever was on that staff should be embarrassed.
Well, and I'll tell you, during our hearing, we had one of his aides. I forget. I think it wasn't Schiff's aide. It was some Democrat's aide. You know, the little 22-year-old in the back that thinks he knows everything, asking us, hey, basically he was trying to get us to admit that we disobeyed orders. And I said, I don't have to admit anything. Yes, I disobeyed orders. I said, he told us not, I know. I said, he told us not to go. I said, they were burning. in that building. I said, yeah. I said, and I would do it 100 times again. I said, I'm not going to wait and let somebody die. And it was completely egregious what questions that some 22-year-old kid that has not even lived a life outside of his fraternity is trying to ask and trying to get us to admit, which we were freely able to admit because we were proud of what we did. But it just showed that when the report came out, how awful it was, because it was full of fabrications, it was full of misrepresentations, lies. And actually, there's a rebuttal that me and Tig wrote. Tig can write, guys. I know he's a Marine, but he actually can write pretty well. And it went out on, I think it went out on Breitbart or the Blaze. That we wrote it, we sent it, and they're the ones that picked it up. And we'd hammered everything that was wrong in Marge's report. So if you guys want to read that, it was during my old angry days too, guys. So I'm a lot nicer, gentler person now. But during those days, I was pretty pissed off. But like Sarah said, it had everything that was wrong in that Rogers report, and it's out there on the interweb. You can Google it somewhere. You'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah, and me, you, and Tig were all talking at the same time. So everything you guys said was wrong in the report, and I included all the stuff I shared to Trey. before I went on the committee. But also, you know, when I just started on the Benghazi committee and had to be questioned by their staff, they did have a staff member ask me, did you find out about the attacks and like leave in advance? So like they really asked me if I found out an attack was coming and like abandon you guys. Like they live in a weird world. There's like no loyalty in Congress, right? It's like, no, that people in CIA would never do that. Like that's the craziest thing ever.
And for those that don't know, Sarah actually was our target in Benghazi. She had to go do some targeting stuff in Eastern Europe. And I'm not making that up. Seriously, her job took her out that week. It just was a coincidence. I can't believe they asked you if you left in advance. And yeah, you would let it. I'm sure, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, if there was something going on, you would let us know way before. And we just didn't know.
Hey, since this kind of took off on Twitter, and you know that clip in particular, I do see all the responses. Some stuff completely irrational, some stuff you know, in support of you guys. But one thing that I see a lot of, and I figured at least like you could give your response to this. There's a ton of people who I think generally support what you guys did and everything that we're saying here, and they are more on the pro team in Benghazi side, I guess, if you could call that a side. But a lot of them are convinced, and I saw just a ton of these responses, Trey Gowdy didn't do enough. If Trey Gowdy did his job, people would have been held responsible. I mean, what's your response to those people, Sarah?
It's actually a really good comment, because one of the reasons I went on the Benghazi committee is I was hoping it would do oversight over to something that would do the attackers, right? So when I first joined, I did ask Trey, I said, Trey, the one thing I'm most interested in is going after the attackers. I don't think the government has done a good job. But he basically said, that's actually not in our purview. Like, here's the things we're focusing on. Here's our oversight bounds. We had a big wide open, right? Like it was a select committee. They could investigate most things, but it wasn't like, it's not like we had the team that would investigate the attackers, if that makes sense. We didn't have the staff. I was the only Libya expert. One guy did work. He was working in another intelligence agency when it happened, and that's it. So we didn't have, he probably made the right decision. We didn't have the staff to do it, and it's not Congress's job anyway. It's an intelligence agency's job, right? It should be CIA, it should be FBI, it should be NSA.
Yeah.
So as I said last time, Congress can only do so much. For all these people who think like Trey was gonna like lock somebody up, I mean, that's delusional. It's just Congress doesn't do that. I know they're doing it now. And like, where'd they get this magical power? But back then, they were even to bring someone in, they threaten you with a subpoena, but then you do it so you don't like get any trouble. You know, it's kind of this, even, you know, I joke with people, they're like, why did the committee go on so long? So we all thought the committee was going to end like 6-7 months earlier. And so we all lined up our next jobs. And the problem was DOD wasn't responding to Congress, because it's like, they don't take Congress serious, a lot of these organizations, right? So they just were ignoring all of our responses. And finally, our staff director is like, no, we did have a DOD guy too on our committee who was helping, I think, DOD. He's kind of the guy that basically said Fort Hood wasn't a terrorist attack. So, you know, he was already in some weird camp. And I asked him why did you do that? That makes no sense. Like, all those people lost those benefits. I know they reversed it since. And he's like, oh, that was the easiest way to do it. I was like, what? But anyway, so I think he was kind of helping the DOD obstruct us, but he moved on to another job because, like I said, we all thought it was leaving. And then our staff director was like, we're staying, we're getting the DOD stuff. And that's why our DOD section is actually so good. We continued the committee just to do the DOD section. And I actually think it came out pretty great in the report. I really think, you know, then it's up to DOD, right, to fix their crap. They didn't, right? But if they're not going to read the report and take it serious, I said this the other day, Congress can say, hey, here's what we investigated, here's the problems, but then those organizations have to then go fix themselves. Or Congress can say, we're going to pull funds from you if you don't fix yourself, right? But you know how that's difficult too. You're going to pull funds from our troops and the DOD and the intel community. It's a very difficult system if you say Congress needs to lead in the fix. Like, these organizations and the people in these organizations need to lead in the fix.
But this is also the problem with politics in general. I was going to say is just the same thing when I see on Twitter. I guess this is me kind of calling out, I guess you would say, our side. And by our side, I don't mean Republicans or Democrats. I mean people who want to get to the truth on Benghazi and see people held accountable. I saw so many of the responses. I almost feel like some people were disappointed in part one of the interview, because it's like, why didn't you talk about Hillary? And I think sometimes that's all people want to hear about. Even the 1 minute clip I have of you calling out Bob. And, I think to a lot of us, Bob is like this faceless, nameless person. And somehow people interpreted your clip talking about what Bob did as saying, she's saying it here that Hillary did not, that had a stand down order. I'm like, I don't know where you're getting it from this clip. So I guess my point being, you either want to get to the truth on Benghazi, which is many different people who need to be held accountable.
Oh, yeah.
It's a ton of faceless, nameless people that a lot of people into politics have never heard of, or you just want to focus on one person. And this is not me defending Hillary Clinton in any way. I'd like to see Hillary go away forever. And we did hear the other day that she's not going to be running for president. Thank God.
That's too bad.
But I just feel like at the end of the day, I do think sometimes our side, I guess the people on the pro getting the truth out their side, just make it all about politics. When I think holding people accountable includes people like Bob that people don't actually know. And none of us even know who Bob is except you guys. Which actually makes me wonder, by the way, what would happen if you revealed who he was? Like, because you guys seem to have all the integrity in the world in terms of you're going to say what's going out there, but I know neither of you will ever say Bob's full name. And I know he did a piece anonymously, basically saying, "Oh, these guys got it wrong," and
Yeah, I mean, we know Bob. The interesting thing with Bob is, in Benghazi, Bob was like our family. He was almost like a father or grandfather type of figure. We all sat down with meals. As a human, he was a nice human, if that makes sense.
He was a passive aggressive
No,
is what he. I didn't get along. I didn't get along.
As a leader and a boss, he was passive aggressive. He never listened to anybody's ideas. He didn't know what he was doing, and he overcompensated by not knowing what he was doing. So he should have been long out to pasture, retired. I mean, he was well in over his head, right? So at the end of the day, he was a failed leader, a bad leader in the CIA. CIA knew he was a bad leader. That's why they kept promising us, he's only there for a month. Promise, he's only there for 2 months. Actually, when we got in that argument with the COS, he actually called Bob the end of the bench. He said, Sarah, I had to send him. He was the end of our bench. So what a lot of people don't understand, in 2012, we're now 10 years into the war on terror, 10 plus. A lot of people sacrificed time from their families. I mean, you saw this when we had our female director in front of Congress. She said a lot of us women gave up having children because we had to go overseas to these war zones. So 10 years in, it was hard to staff these places because people were like, I just can't keep going to war zones. I'm on my second divorce. I haven't seen my kids. It was really hard to staff people then. So you weren't, unfortunately, getting the best of the best. I mean, this is the problem. We can't have 20-year wars. Another thing is CIA doesn't hire people who are only meant for war zones, right? They hire people who can go in and talk to politicians and mingle with academia. Like, those people don't want to go and sit down with a warlord and afraid a bomb's gonna go off. The war on terror really shook the CIA, and it made a lot of people go out of their comfort zones, and CIA did a really good job with it. But you can only maintain that tempo for so long.
You're right. And that's what we talked about in the early show. I saw from 06 to 08, you started to see, even 04, even earlier than that, those salty jawbreaker guys that started to filter themselves out, that started to leave because they've been doing it for such a long time. You started to see these kids had no business being in a war zone, but that's all we have. You only have so many former special ops guys, so many former MI military intelligence people, so many former guys that want, and I say guys, again, gender neutral term, guys and gals that want to go into a war zone, that have the experience. Come in 2010, we were scraping the bottom of the barrel. You didn't have those former spec ops or those former psyops people that wanted to come over. Also, is because they were starting to get paid well too, and they were doing just fine where they were at. Why do I want to go to the CIA? I'm just gonna get paid the same. I'm doing the same job. I'd like to stay where I'm at. So I agree. I agree in that. And also I agree too that I think as a country with social media, we want to see that hanging. We want to see somebody in the stockade like we did in the medieval times. And we don't just allow, and I'm a big proponent of God. You guys know that. And that's how I let it go. It's like, they're going to get theirs. They're already getting theirs every day. They're already feeling it every day. If they don't feel some remorse or some guiltiness, okay, Hillary probably doesn't, but what is she? Where she's going to hell, guys. She is. I'm certain, and I know that. There's no doubt about it, and I'm okay with that. I don't need to judge somebody anymore. I used to do that, but who am I to judge? I've done enough sins myself that I don't need to judge anybody. So would it be nice to see somebody locked up and walking on the TV like this with the handcuffs saying you're responsible? Maybe, but I don't need to see that anymore. It's those that have to still see it. That keeps that anger going. That's not healthy. We're putting the information out there. We're finding out the truth. The ones that are responsible, they will have their day in their maker. They'll be facing God, and God's going to put them where they need to be. And I'm okay with that. And those like Sarah that came out and sacrificed a lot of shit to do the right thing, I know she's going to be okay when she meets her maker. She's going to go and she's going to be partying with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. She's going to be out there having a great time. The ones that didn't, they'll go to hell. That's all right. We're good. They're going to find their comeuppance. So yeah, guys, I don't know if Trey could have done anything. Getting back to Trey stuff, and this is my little spiel. He put it out there. I would have liked him to act like the Attorney General, but he wasn't the Attorney General. So if you want to ask anybody why wasn't anybody brought to justice, ask Jeff Sessions. That's who the question needs to go to. He put the information out there. He collected the information. He didn't. You guys weren't tasked to recommend the punishments, right? You guys were just tasked to collect the info. Well, turn it over to Jeff Sessions. It went anywhere. But you guys did find the info that needed. You did find out. That was the first time I found out that Gaddafi's loyalists were the ones that saved us, which your guys' report. It's like, holy crap, that's unbelievable. I didn't know Gaddafi saved us, but that should have been huge to Sessions, but he didn't do anything with it. Why? I don't know. Maybe we need to bring Jeff Sessions on the show and ask him. Why did you? Well, I mean, I guess I'll go into that. Why do you think that he didn't do anything? Why do you think
I'm going to do a quick sidebar before we jump from it, and then I will. So, you know, Ian made a really good point too. When you keep bringing up Hillary, then we're not getting justice, right? If you focus all on Hillary, and she can pull in all that energy, right? Like she knows how to play it. If you focus on her, then you don't know who the attackers are. You don't detain them. You don't put them on the X. Like we don't get our justice. You know, Hillary's Hillary, as Tonto said, horrible person. In regards to Benghazi, I'll give you two examples because people want Hillary content, and then we're going to move on from Hillary and get back to our lives and hopefully meet her on the internet and let her retire and be done with her. Yeah. But so here's the two instances. So as a lot of people know, when our annex was struck, we actually had the State Department people helping fight on our roofs. So the CIA wanted to award the State Department people as well. Hey, you came to annex, you know, you protected over 30 people. You're on the roof fighting. I mean, one State Department guy almost lost his arm and leg.
Dave Ubben. No, wait, Dave Ubben and the two guys that came in from Tripoli. Those three guys came up to help us. And we put them in the movie, guys. It's in there. You just watch it closely. You'll see them. Yep.
So CIA wanted to award them at the ceremony, right? Hey, we want to award you for defending our compound. Hillary said you cannot award them because people died on our compound. So even though they protected way more people at CIA and helped you, she shot that down. Another thing that was really concerning is you bring up Dave, you know, this is the second point. Dave was in Walter Reed, severely injured. Thank God a GRS officer had the skills in Benghazi to save him because we lost our two medics. Roan was the medic for Tripoli. Bub was the medic for Benghazi. Backwards, but you know what I mean.
Flip it around.
And so luckily other people had life-saving skills and they saved him. So he's in Walter Reed from the time of the attacks that he was there until the end of her term. She never visited him, said I was too busy. Her replacement, John Kerry, went his first week. She didn't even go and check on him, thank him for his service. And so that's why I say, hey, Hillary doesn't want to be a part of things. Let's just not let her be a part of things. Like, put her to the side. We're done with her. We got shit to do. And Hillary's not the one that's going to help us do it. So let's just be done with her.
I think that's that's the best way to do it. It is. So you just forget. I said that a while back as well. Forget about her. Let her go. Then she'll disappear. And honestly, that's going to hurt her and those around her more than anything. It's just being forgotten. If you're a politician, what's the worst thing in the world that you want, especially a megalomaniac politician, for nobody to remember you, for nobody to talk about you? So done. Hillary's done. We don't want to talk about Hillary anymore. All right. It's like Voldemort. We don't say that word anymore. No more.
But in terms of holding people accountable, actually getting back to the book, getting back into Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy, people are being held accountable, as you kind of alluded to earlier, in terms of that there are guys dying that were responsible for the attack, that it doesn't get any media. As you said on the first show, they just want that word Benghazi to go away. So they don't even mention it when they take out these terrorists. And in this book, you've identified how many people again who were behind the attack, and really get into who they are?
Yeah, sure. So I just kind of want to make this clear. We basically did an entire investigation. So what we're putting in this book is today's like moment in time of our investigation, if that makes sense. The investigation is still going. So what we did is we set standards. So you had to have been confirmed at the consulate. We had to have your full given name, so the name on your birth certificate, with your nationality. And then we had to have your photo. So the photo couldn't be the crappy consulate camera photo. We had to have another photo of you to say this is the right person. Because what the government does, the government's so crappy at this. Like, I'll go into a briefing and someone will be like, yeah, I work this, I'm the analyst or the targeter, I know everything about this network. And they'll put up a network chart. And it says Abu, blah, 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 like fake name, Abu, maybe one photo of the bad guys, right? And I'm like, what the hell is this? So it's really funny. Like in our attack alone, the name Abu Dujana, we have 6 or 7 of them. We have a ton of Abu Musabs, right? We have a ton of Abu Abdullahs. Don't give me a damn Abu name.
No more Abus. Yeah. I was like,
I can't take it. So we set standards. So as long as someone met those 3 standards, they go on our list. So we have over 100 attackers on our list who meet those 3 standards.
Yeah, I've got a separate question for you. And this is during our time there. We got in trouble for this. Me and Boone actually got in trouble for this as well. It's when the BT Carb guys came in, the radio, the Cypher guys came in. Remember, there were 4 Iranians that came in, and actually we're the ones. They asked us to take them out to track them. We got in trouble for it later from Bob because we were supposed to be tracking Iranians. Did that and I never got a clarification on it. If you can't tell me, you can't tell me, but did that have any play? Because that was just a couple of weeks before the attack. It just seems coincidental that we had the Iranians coming in to visit or set up a hospital there in Benghazi. Do you remember anything about that at all? Do you remember, did it have anything to do with the attack? Was there some Iranian involvement? I know there was Qatari involvement, obviously, but was there any Iranian involvement to the attack at all? Were they trying to help out, or was that just pure coincidence that those 4 Iranian doctors, I think they said they were, that came in?
Sure. Yeah. So this was right before I came to Benghazi, but I know plenty about, a lot of people don't know this, but after I worked Pakistan, I worked Iran. So I was an Iran expert too.
That's why I'm asking you. That's why you're an expert. That's why.
No. So the thing is the only Iranian intelligence officers in East Libya at the time were the captured ones. Okay. So Rafal al-Sahati captured them in the summer, and they were still detained during the attacks, right, at his compound, his headquarters. So there were no Iranian, people liked, there's a whole book on the Iranians being
I read that.
By the way, don't read that book. So the only Iranian intelligence officers in the East, right, were detained. So number one, that shows you the militia hated the Iranians, hated them. There would have been no Iranian involvement. Iran tried to get some influence. They're not a Qatar. They're not a Turkey. They tried to get influence in the Libya, and they were like shut down pretty much after even that detention of, they detained 7 of them. Iran was like, okay, Libya is just like too hot. It ain't worth it. It's already made some bad press. I mean, you captured Quds Force people. It's embarrassing, right? If you're the most elite in Iran and some schmuck in Benghazi's capturing you. He wasn't a schmuck, we learned later on. He was Al-Qaeda's lead commander for Benghazi, but we all were like, damn, Iran's looking like shit. So the Iranians weren't involved in any way.
Okay.
So.
And that's why because some people asked me about that. And then you're right, that book came out and we went to check who they were, but that's as far as I knew. And as far as I knew, there weren't any in the country. It was never a threat to us. We never got a threat analysis or a threat reporter or a be on the lookout. Hey, don't go in this area. There are Iranians, like we would when we're in Herat or somewhere else, closer to the border.
And another really good point to mention is at the time they were negotiating to get their people out.
That's okay.
They weren't going to take any missteps. They wanted to get their, intelligence officers the heck out of Libya before they were like killed or whatever. So they were just like, tell us what you want. And remember, the people they wanted were from Iraq. So Iran now was spending all their time talking to the Iraqi government. Hey, you got to give us these detainees because we got to get our Quds Force guys back. So they were involved in high level negotiations and they were just not involved in anything to do with our attack.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was a coincidence. No worries.
But I got a funny story though.
Remember, no, go ahead. Yeah,
so remember those same type of guys came to Tripoli and I kidnapped them?
What? No, I don't remember that.
You gone already?
I don't remember what happened. Remind me.
Well, so we wanted to do capture operations, but remember we had no capture team.
Yeah.
And the same guys came to Tripoli to kind of do their surveys. And I said, oh, they have the skills to capture. Let's just keep them. And me and G-Mag kidnapped them and kept them there for, a long, like they were supposed to be there 3 or 4 days. And we kept them there over like a month. And they kept complaining back to their office in Germany that we kidnapped them and we're like forcing them to work. So I thought you were there. You must have left before then.
I must have left, bro. I don't remember.
It was a huge scandal that we kidnapped 2 Americans.
Way to go, guys. That's awesome. Do you have any questions on that? I don't even know where to go with that one. Like, oh my God, what are you doing? I had gone. I was not part of that capturing. Not saying I've never been a part of something like that. I never have, but it shit happens. Shit happens in war.
When you need bodies, you get them how you can get them.
You get what you can. To finish and end up here, the select committee's done. What happened after? Because I remember that was kind of rough because you couldn't go back to the agency at that time. Am I right? After this,
because I left the agency to go beyond the committee. So yeah, you can't just like go back and forth.
So what direction, or did you have any paths that you wanted to go on? I know you were thinking about doing this project, but that seemed like years ago now. What was your step? What was the path, and what led you down to where now I'm going to do this book and we're going to find out the attackers, and then also put out a lot more stuff that even the guys that were on the ground didn't know, because you were privy to it. Which was awesome. I'm glad you were, because you're putting a lot of great stuff out and you're helping me. I hate to say closure. I don't like using closure too much, but it does. It gives me a little closure as well. So, but what happened? Select committee's done. Then where did you go from there, and how were you feeling, and were you kind of feeling lost? Because now I'm like, oh my gosh, I got nothing to do, and I know how a busybody you are, which you are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I told you, the select committee got extended. So the summer before it was extended, I had a job. I was going to go to a war zone. Then the committee got extended, and when the committee ended, there was a government freeze, right? That's when Trump came in and he froze all hiring. So unless I stayed in Congress, which I had no interest in doing, I was like, shoot, I'm going to have to go private sector, because I think the only thing he left open was maybe the Border Patrol. So I couldn't go anywhere in the government. So I started applying private sector. But as you know, my job now was the Benghazi committee, which, lots of times CIA hurts you because people have weird views about CIA and think we do these like horrible things. But then when you put Benghazi committee on top of it, it was pretty tough. I had actually a few people like call me up and be like, we're not going to give you the job because we're in the Benghazi committee, but we thought you'd be really interesting to talk to. And I was like, what? Don't waste my time.
That is weird.
Yeah, so my first job after the Benghazi committee was actually with JetBlue. So like I said, I went into the
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, you did. Yeah. Investigate, was it investigative division, the JetBlue?
Yeah, it was their investigative team, and they wanted to kind of bring someone in to be their analyst and targeter, and we kind of developed a whole kind of program where we look for criminals, human traffickers, money launderers, drug smugglers, like that type of stuff. We didn't. Terrorism wasn't a big thing in the airline industry. I think we had one ISIS threat to JetBlue like the whole 2 years I was there. So it was all that other type of crime, right?
Okay.
So so yeah, like I worked with JetBlue and like our local FBI field office. So it was kind of more law enforcement. All my bosses were retired NYPD, great guys. Fun,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
everyone you work with retired NYPD. I felt retired. I actually, one of the reasons I had to leave JetBlue, right? It's like, I kind of need to do more. And I really wanted to get into technology. And so when this job I'm in now popped up, it was in DoD. We do research and development for the government. So we basically go find ways to make the government work better, faster, smarter. So the job opened up. I thought it was a perfect fit, and then I rolled in. To go back to the other part of your question, when we started this investigation was actually pretty early on into the Benghazi committee. We started it before, like I said, we started an A to Z nuts and bolts Benghazi investigation. So boring. I have it on files on my computer. Like, oh my God, it's if you ever want to read it, I have tons of dirt in there probably. But when I was on the Benghazi committee, we went over to CIA. I went over there all the time. That's where we had to read the documents. And one of the times I was there, I got into the elevator with an analyst. I told this story in another podcast when that was in the division, right? That would work Libya. And he was one of those just kick ass, you're like, you want to work with him. And so he was like, hey, what are you doing now? And of course I said Benghazi committee, which, not always was the best thing to say. Like sometimes I'd be like Congress. So he threw his hands back. He's a little dramatic guy. He threw his hands back and he was like, oh, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I was thinking, wow, if kind of one of their best analysts is saying this to me, they're not working the Benghazi attackers. So I actually went home after the CIA and I called Boone because I've been pushing Boone. He wanted to do this long, boring investigation into everything, right? State, the DoD, CIA. And I said, and I was just like, all that matters is the attackers. Everyone wasted so many years on all these other little buckets. Like, let's go after the damn attackers. So when I called him and said, CIA's not doing the attackers, I mean, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. I convinced him, and that's when we kind of went gun-ho, and we're like, we're just gonna ID, we're a little idealistic. We're just gonna ID everybody. We're close. I mean, even the ones we don't have, we either have their cunyas or we know who has the information. We just ran out of money to pay for it. So because we self-funded the entire investigation. So, to get people's, even someone's true name might cost money, right? So we basically did all the best we could do. It's actually to a point. We actually stopped now. I mean, it seems like it coincides with the 10-year, but we stopped last summer. And then we put it through approvals, right? Because we're like, well, we need to get this approved to put out. And then we've been updating it since. So we've actually gotten a lot just in this last year. So now though, it's to the point, right, where we need someone else to move the ball forward. I mean, so if a guy's in Southern Libya in Sabha, Sabha.
Oh, I remember, I remember on the rooftop many times drinking coffee.
So we got a big target in Sabha, right? Well, me and Boone aren't going to go action him in Sabha. Like we don't live in the movies. So we need a nation state to go drop a bomb on him in Sabha. So we're at the point, right, where we have the people. We now need to give it to the governments who will take the action. So that's kind of the piece we're at now.
Gotcha. Well, and I think, somebody with ethics will. It's not going to be right off the bat because I don't think there's a lot of ethics in Northern Virginia or DC, but somebody will. There are people with ethics there. Obviously, you're one of them, and I worked with quite a few. The country TL that was in Libya, tremendous guy. I love that guy, especially as a contractor. I think he had a lot of integrity as well. And also, like you spoke about, I know we can't say his name, but the gentleman, the GRS guy that came from Tripoli that acted as the medic. I worked with him for many, many, many years. Tremendous guy as well, even though he's a little.
Wears too short of shorts when he works.
He always does. Yeah, it's that, and that haircut. He always has the high and tight going. I was like, man, we're out of the dude. We're out. You got to let your hair grow out. But tremendous guy as well. So there is the possibility that somebody else will take it forward.
And to be honest, we don't care if it's the United States. I mean, we've kind of given up on the United States. We're happy with Haftar. If it gives him more information, the Algerians, the Tunisians, the French, the Turks. There's a lot in Turkey. The negative is the Turks are also on the side of the terrorists because they're on the side of the government of Libya. So we don't think the Turks are going to get too involved. But there are a couple that were like ISIS, and that makes Turkey look bad. And so we do think there could be some potential play with Turkey. There's also a very well-known Al-Qaeda guy that people think is dead, and he's in hiding in Turkey, and we actually put the city in the book. So we do think that there is play, and we do think foreign governments might move forward with some of this.
I think they will. It just takes time, and it takes the right, right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time for the terrorists. But as you see, it's just like the perfect storm. It always ends up and, oh, we got him. And it may just be something where they just, holy shit, he's right there. We got him. Let's do it. And somebody with some balls does it. It's the ones that say, wait for that command structure to go down the line. It's like trying to catch a fish, and you want to float your line out there, and the smart one finally does. But usually it's, hey, let's go ask my dad. Then let's go ask grandpa. Then let's go ask great grandpa. And by then, fish is gone. But like I said, people like yourself didn't do that. You say, let's get it done. And most of the time, the shit got done, which was excellent.
And the thing we tried to focus on is lots of times governments haven't gone after these guys because they don't know they were involved, or they don't even know they're involved in other attacks. So we did a really good job of putting their backgrounds in there, putting the terrorist groups they're involved in, actually putting their networks, right? Hey, here's the bad guys they've been friends with. Here's the bad guy who mentored them. Here's where they went in Syria. Just so somebody can say, hey, I actually have evidence to put him on the X. I've been wanting to go after this guy. No one's listened to me that he's a bad guy. Here he is. Here's his photo. And that's the way we did it. So this isn't kind of written for the general public. I mean, the general public will find it interesting because it's like, wow, like, here's like kind of a look into how someone would do something in the CIA, right? Like this is super cool. Like I get to read all about this terrorist, but we wrote it for our industry to do something with.
And it's a shame that we won't take advantage of it as far as the American government. But the guy that is in charge right now, he was the VP, and he washed his hands of it. He said, I want nothing to do with Benghazi when he was vice president. So to think that he's going to do anything about it, obviously not. Right. It's not going to happen. Last thing we got, and I wanted to go through is you helped with Afghanistan, and we really talked about that. We're kind of shifting gears. You really did help people get out of there. I have to ask you because of your background, and I want your mindset on this, but also I want to know how things were going and how you got people out best you can. Tell us about that if you have a story. But the actual drawdown, the actual failed leaving of Afghanistan, you spent many years there. What's your feeling on it? What were you seeing? What was going through your head when you saw the debacle that was transpiring? And again, that's where I met you, was in Kabul. So I know you've got a lot of friends there, and I know it probably hit close to home, but I kind of want to get your feelings on that.
Yeah, I met you in a nearby place, but because I have to say South Asia, you know where I mean. But yeah, so I actually am a little embarrassed. So when it first started happening, I was keyboard warring, and I hate those people, but I was doing it right. Oh my God, like when Herat was about to fall, I was like, keep the US government out of it. They're going to negotiate for them to, like, Afghans fight, right? Like the US government's asking you to be weak and like surrender, which we did, right? And so I was spending all my time like in it, what I felt in it, right? But just reading the press, not in it. And I was complaining about it. And I was like, oh my God, like the next city's gonna fall. Like I just knew Taliban's taking it in days, The funny part is while I was keyboard doing my boarding, an Afghan who I'm friends with, but he lives in America. He's an American, he was an intel officer. He writes me I said something about the vice president. He wrote back and we went to DM and we went back and forth discussing. And I just dropped a line. One of our CIA colleagues, he runs Deliver Fund. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, they do human trafficking, right?
Yeah, so they had brought a bunch of donors together to do housing for Afghans. And so the CEO of it said, hey, if you need anyone in America that needs housing at the time, let me know. So I kind of dropped that to him. I said, hey, do you have any family coming from Afghanistan? I have a friend, a former colleague who's going to do housing. And he said, oh, no, but my family needs to get out. And so this is the first day, right? So I think I'm all in the news. I think I know what's going on. And then an Afghan tells me, yeah, my dad can't get in the airport. His dad was special forces. He's an intel officer. He'd been working for the United States since he was 17. He's like in his 30s now. And I was like, what? Your parents can't get in the airport? He had like 2 sisters married to Americans. So it blew my mind. And at first I thought, I don't know why he's asking me, right? What a crazy lunatic to ask me. And so I didn't take it serious. I was like, so for like a day or two, I was kind of like so strange. I actually told Boone, because we were doing this we were actually finishing off the investigation to send it to the agency. So it was horrible timing, right? Because I had to get everything to send it to review. And so I was like, yeah, this guy asked me to save his parents. I don't even know anything about. So 2 days later, he circled back and said, I'm really serious. Like, if you don't get my parents in the airport, like, they're not going to get out. They're going to kill them because, you know, everybody in my town knows I'm an intel officer. So that's actually when I got involved. And the funny story is, I was like, okay, if I'm going to get involved, I'm going to save this family. I don't give a damn what I could do. So you know what I did? Tanta, you'll laugh. I call Eric Prince.
Oh my! Oh no!
Well, because I was like, who do I call? Who in America? Because, you know, I knew nothing about saving people. Like, I know how to save our own people, but I don't know how to save like random people from a country. So I called him up, and, you know, I didn't know him. I knew, you know, we're in the same circles, but he's like up here in the circles and I'm down here in the circles. And I was like, yeah, I worked with all your guys overseas. Like, I need you to like send a plane and go save some people for me. And he goes, sure.
Oh,
so
wow!
Holy shit!
We actually didn't need his plane, but it still is a funny story. So he actually another one of our friends, he worked also in the country near Afghanistan with me. He apparently went and asked Air Prince too. So I wasn't the only one with this really bright idea. So he basically was going to send a private plane and put my 7 on, and then my friends, he had like 5, 6, or 7. So I saw the manifest. Funny thing, it leaked somehow. And so there's a whole press report that Prince was going to send it in and do like.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah.
So you started that shit.
I started that shit, but the crazy part is Prince was going to send in a plane and pick up my family on his own dime. So it actually infuriated me. I actually probably commented on every time someone put that damn press report on LinkedIn, because I was like, no, like there was like 14 people on his little plane and he was doing it for me. And then, do you know Bodie?
Oh, come on. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, of course.
Me and Bodie each had families. And so he was flying in just to take our families for free on his own dime. So I was actually kind of irate. We ended up not having to use, number one, it took me so long to get the family in the airport. Like, I didn't get the family in the airport until after the suicide bombing. And then at that point, they said only Americans. We still got in through throwing some fits. But so when we got in the airport, it's crazy because, you know, everybody was volunteering in Afghanistan at that time, because by that time people were like finding out the truth, at least in our circles. So 3 people in my office were doing the manifesting. So the second we got in the airport, they put them on the first plane. So they were gone within 15 minutes. So we didn't even bring in a private plane. But just to point out, you know, like people in our community, you know, he didn't even know me. And he said, I'll send you a plane. You know, I said, hey, this family is really important to me. He's like, I'll put them on it. I'll take them out. And that's how our community works. That's how it normally is. If you call those type of people, they will come and help you save people. And I think, I mean, that's just, you know, one of those feel-good stories. And not just at his level, right? As you know, so I've been doing this for a year now. We got grandmas volunteering, we got college students, we got people from all over the world. I mean, every day I'm talking to people in like every country that are trying to save Afghans. So a lot of people have come together on this. And it is really sad, you know, we talk about saving Afghans, but the negative is so many die. So even this morning, I wake up, my Afghan, so I got all my Afghans out now, except maybe like 2 are still there. One's about to be out. But, you know, one of my favorite ones that I have out across the border, you know, his uncle just got killed. He was former military. Taliban went in and murdered him. It's very sad. People have no idea. We have a ton of former assets. Every day they're getting killed. It's the amount of people getting killed. It's not in the press. And
of course not.
The thing is, what Taliban does is they go in and kill one of your family members. They say, if you tell an American, we're going to come back and wipe out your whole family. So they'll tell us, right? But I'll never say who his uncle was, because I don't want them to go back and wipe out the rest of the family. Even his wife's still there, and they go to her house every week, search the house. They search for documents. They destroy people's passports so they can't leave. So her documents are hidden in a pretty good spot that we came up with. But yeah, they'll go in, destroy the documents so the wives can't leave. I mean, the women in that country are just, they've all been trapped or all being forced into marriages. None of it's in the press. So we're doing some good. But what's happening in Afghanistan, I mean, I work Ukraine too. What's happening in Afghanistan is insane. Like the thing that's happening to these people it's just breaks your heart.
Well, we all saw that coming. Everybody that's worked there could have called that from day one. And that pisses me off more than anything, because our media is complicit to not reporting that, because again, it's these stupid politics. They got to keep this knucklehead in power. Our guy, they can't say anything bad about him, even though he's caused more turmoil and more carnage, I think, even than the second Bush did with us in Iraq. And people might hate me for saying that, because I'm not playing politics. I'm just saying what it is. This guy's Democrat, this guy's Republican. They both caused carnage. It happened. And media is going to be complicit to protect both until later years. I'm sure 10 years down the line, somebody will report something like you're talking about in Afghanistan. But those that worked in Afghanistan, we saw that from day one. We knew as soon as it was falling. Well, there goes all the women's rights. All you guys are about women's rights, except Afghanistan, I guess. So yeah, we'll just worry about that.
And another big issue is if you're an Afghan and you don't really have someone helping you, there's no way to get out. There's so much corruption. It's thousands of dollars for visas and passports. I'm really lucky. My big grouping of Afghans, their boss, and he's not even really their boss anymore, right? They worked for him for a very short time. He funds everything for them. So he's like, I want you to save them. I want you to get them out from his own pocket, right? Not out of a business. So I'm luckily in a situation, because, we're like 12, 13 months into this. These people don't have jobs. A lot of them living in third countries now. No, they don't have any kind of work visas. They're refugees. So it's also like it's so expensive. There are volunteers who've mortgaged their homes, sold their property. There's volunteers who's sold their homes. There's tons of divorces, right? Because people are going broke and because they're trying to save these Afghans. Veterans are getting really traumatized by this. They tried saving their Terp, and their Terp got murdered, like months ago. They tried 7-8 months and he gets murdered. They tried to keep him safe. That's the thing. People spend so much time trying to keep these people safe, and they couldn't keep them safe. We're going to have a whole generation just of Americans who are going to need mental help after this. It's just, there's a lot of costs that people don't actually see because it's not in the press anymore.
And politicians in Northern Virginia don't care. If you're a veteran out there and you can, I helped just by writing a letter for 2 of my Terps, and that actually helped. But hey, just write a letter, it's good signature on it, through it, and that helped them get out of the country. Mine was early on, so I'm glad they got out. One went to the Netherlands. I think I said the other one went to Canada. But even as a veteran, if that's all you can do, it can help. If you've worked with somebody, just putting your John Hancock on the letter and saying, this is me, this is my unit, this is who I'm with, and sending it on. It's simple as that, or getting in depth as Sarah has, which you really put the work into it. I know we're ending up here because I actually got another podcast I got to do here.
Oh, look at you!
But
what time do you have to go? You have to go like now, or
we got a couple minutes. So
because I was just gonna say, for one, that it was amazing to hear all of that. The Eric Prince story, honestly, incredible. And because to be honest, there's been a lot of negative stuff in the press about Eric Prince recently. We've covered it. I'm going to cover the negative and the positive. I think that's what you should do in terms of just being as objective as possible, and that certainly puts them in a good light. And it's not a story I heard about. I don't think it's a story anybody heard about. So this was awesome to hear. I guess, Chris, if you have to go, because I was going to say real quick, then I did want to at least ask you about what you're doing in Ukraine in terms of the volunteering there, because I know that's what's been your focal point right now.
We're good. Keep going, and we'll finish up.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I said, I was heavily involved in Afghanistan. A lot of the people working in Afghanistan shifted to Ukraine, mostly because they said, hey, we already have the networks. We already have some funding coming in. We know how to do this. We're basically working in a war zone in Afghanistan. We can shift. And a lot of people had experiences in war zones. So I was first asked to start getting involved in Ukraine. I was like, yeah, just add me to a group and I'll hang out in the back.
Right. Yeah.
No, I 100%. I even told the executive assistant of the man I work in Afghanistan, she's like, oh, are you going to get involved in Ukraine now? And then it was funny, a few months ago when I got promoted to COO, she sends me a message. I thought you weren't getting involved in Ukraine. I was like, I know. But yeah, so we started this little group, 20 people, and our only thing we were planning to do is share information across groups. So, hey, we found out Russians are stationed here, or we found out this border has a really bad delay, go use this one, like that kind of information, just basics. And that group has grown to thousands. We actually now have a whole umbrella organization. We have over 30 NGOs under us. We don't just share information, we actually do evacuations, we do route planning, we do humanitarian aid. We're starting to get ready for the winter. We're doing winterization, as it's called. So yeah, we are all the way in. Obviously, it was really rewarding in the beginning when you were doing evacuations. Then, you know, they became a lot more Russian occupied areas. So we were doing evacuations, but now it was riskier. So that's when we shifted a lot to the route planning, trying to keep people safe when they went in. And then, like I said, now we're kind of thinking a little more active recovery. I mean, we're still trying to save people that need it, but you know, these cities have to still keep running. People have to keep eating. And a lot of people don't realize is when all these refugees moved to the other cities in Ukraine, they stuck them in the schools. Well, now the schools are about to open, and now like you got to find homes for these people. So there's all these little things that I'm learning, right? Like, hey, during a crisis, like it ebbs and flows. 1 month you work this, 1 month you work that. And so that's been pretty rewarding because, like I said, it just keeps shifting what our focus is, what the needs are. You know, the big organizations aren't doing much, you know, like don't send your money to UN or the Red Cross. Like they're not even like in country anywhere. Like you gotta give money to these small NGOs. Like they're the ones making a difference. They're the ones feeding people, getting people generated.
Are there ones that you'd recommend so people, if they listen to the show, they could go to their sites or at least search them?
We actually, we treat all of our partners equally. So we just have a website. It's called uncn.one. I think he still is at .one. Our IT guy keeps changing stuff. Some things are changing to .me, like my email's .me now. So I'm like, and he jokes, Sarah knows it doesn't go to technology. She might not be on this. So if you go there, we list them all. So like, let's say you're interested in human trafficking. You can see who works human trafficking. If you're interested in evacuations, you can see who works evacuations. We have some really great organizations, you know, for evacuations. You've probably heard Project Dynamo. They're one of our main evacuation teams. They actually did an evacuation the first day Russia invaded, like kick ass. They saw it coming, they got prepared. They actually brought out Americans from Afghanistan in October. So I've had a long relationship with them at this point.
Awesome.
We do a lot of things caring about veterans. As you know, there's so many veterans involved in supporting Afghanistan, Ukraine. So one of another good partners is Flanders Fields. They basically, you know, help care for veterans, you know, with the mental side of things. And they're just an amazing team. They do the whole gambit. I mean, they were even helping us with like safe houses when we first were moving bodies out of Ukraine. They can do it all. So there's so many great partners. We got another one called like Carry the Future. It's just when you go on the website, you'll see it's just like kick ass. A lot of the Afghan people came over. So you know Perry Blackburn, don't you? So Perry Blackburn is one of our guys. He runs an organization called AFG Free. He's on the ground. I mean, he was doing evacuations, but he's also gone in there and trained the Ukrainians too. You know, we try to stay in the humanitarian side, but it's a war and it crosses over sometimes, right? Like sometimes, so like for a hospital is a great example. They take care of the wounded fighters. They take care of the wounded civilians. Like we're going to support what that hospital needs. If they need cots, we'll get the cots in there. If, you know, they need tourniquets, we'll get the tourniquets in there. So, you know, it can get gray at sometimes, but it is a huge humanitarian response.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm on the site right now. So it's uncn.one spelled out. So uncn.one. In terms of the book, Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy, I really hope it gets out there soon. It sucks that you have to go through this clearing process because you and I were talking about it. I even sent it to Tonto that, you know, there is that book out that's out this month by Ethan Shorin, Benghazi, A New History of the Fiasco That Pushed America and Its World to the Brink. And it's not saying anything positive or negative. None of us really know him. But the fact that it's out this month, it kind of takes away some shine from your book, which we'd like to see the spotlight on your book and getting your book out there. So, I mean, I just hope the clearance happens in these next few days because we were hoping to see a 9/11 or 9/12 release date.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I've read what his book's about. We don't know him. He says he was running an NGO in Benghazi at the time. I mean, I spent a lot of time that year in Tripoli. Anyway, we don't know him. Maybe State Department did. But you know, just getting it out is okay. I don't feel it's competition. I mean, when you see my book my book is no Pulitzer. It's not, it's written to write, go put guys on the X. Super strange. You're not going to get a book like that. And, some really great books came out this week. We got Crisis in Command, Stuart Scheller. We got Operation Pineapple Express, Scott Mann. So, I'm not in this to compete. I love these people who step up to the government and say, hey, there's a better way of doing things. We need to fix the problems in our government. Please bring on those books. Like, I love these people. Like, you're our community. We support you. If my book comes out a couple of weeks late, so be it. I mean, our guys are getting killed. That's all I care about. Like, another Benghazi attacker died today. So that's the point of it.
That's awesome. Anyway, and hey, I'm going to push it. So I know everybody that luckily that follows my stuff, they're going to buy it. So you'll at least get a couple, 10, 20 people buy it.
Like I said, these clips are getting a ton of press and or a ton of publicity, I guess, through Twitter, through all that, through friends of ours in the media, right? I mean, even though you're not going to see these interviews on Fox News or CNN, our friends like I said, Sarah Carter from Fox News putting it out there.
And Grant Stinchfield, he's at Newsmax. He's got a tremendous following there. I mean, you're going to get. I would assume if they.
But I don't think he put our clip out there. I'm shouting out Sarah Carter. She put our clip out there.
Actually, I think he talks about it on his radio show. He's at LA radio show in the morning.
He's mentioned us. If he has, that's awesome.
And Stinchfield, yeah, he's a buddy. So, and he mentioned, and of course, he's going to want to have you. And Sarah's huge. I didn't know who she was. I'll be honest, Sarah. I didn't know who you were because I don't follow Fox News anymore. But with
Sarah Carter.
Sarah Carter.
Yeah.
Sarah Carter.
Of course he knows me. How would
I know
he know?
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Sarah Carter. But Sarah Carter.
There.
But with the millions, you said she got. I mean, that's going to
yeah.
be huge.
Will Cal put it out there too.
Yeah,
Janine and
Cal's
Tom
a
Morelli.
man.
So
Will
everybody who
Cal's
put it out there, it's awesome. Once again, the book is Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy, at Ascari Media Group on Instagram, and then you have a new Twitter, which is at Benghazi Attacks on Twitter. But pick up the book, because even though we went long in these 2 episodes, there's going to be plenty that you have not heard that's going to be in the book. And luckily, I would say all the responses I'm seeing are not people who feel like they heard enough already. There's people saying they're energized, they want to read this book, and a lot of people saying, I don't see the book. I'm on Amazon right now. So you will see it in the next few weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's frustrating for us too. I was so depressed yesterday because it was supposed to actually be our original release date. Like I said, I'm in a better mood now that we took out a really big AQAM guy.
That's
but
awesome.
Nice.
it is what it is. Actually, I promised my followers on LinkedIn I would release the list of all the terrorist door kickers for 9/11. So if you actually are on LinkedIn, or it'll get shared. We are going to put the names out. So they belong to us. We did an investigation into the actual attackers, unclassified on our own. There are people, our pictures, our data. So yeah, that's going to get released no matter how long they delay our book.
Awesome. Well,
and I do hope that this show inspires people to just seek the truth, because I see a lot of people who listen to the show and I guess unfortunately some of the responses are like, this made me so angry. And I don't think it should be inciting anger. It should just be that we want the truth out there. We want people held accountable. And I think you've said it before too, Chris. I mean, it's like, we do a show that's usually inspiring. So I hope that this doesn't, change the mood of things, that people are just like, I'm pissed now that things aren't, where they should be with this 10 years later. I don't think that helps anything. I think what helps is doing shows like this and getting these names out there, getting this information out there. That's what's important.
Well, showing Sarah. I mean, she's persevered. How many years you've been doing this? You've been trying to get to the bottom of this for 7 years. I've known you. I know how much of the, how much you're pitbull. You just want to, if you find something, you hang on to it till it gets done. So I think that's inspiring in itself. I really do. Just your work ethic and you don't give up. And that's what our show is about. It's about never giving up. And you didn't, and you still haven't, and you're still helping people out there. So yeah, it's going to make people angry, because those that want to see heads roll, but don't be that way, guys. Just keep putting information out, keep moving forward, and do what Sarah does. Just keep finding information and helping others. And in the end, it's going to be justified. It is. And people that are held accountable, or that need to be held accountable, will be. You may not see it, but they will be. I guarantee it will happen. Just trust me on this one. So just calm down on the anger. Just know that what Sarah's book is doing, and Boone, it's Sarah and Boone's book, they're holding people accountable. And it will help. We may not see all the aftermath of it, but it will help. And by killing one of the Benghazi terrorists and Benghazi attackers, obviously it helped today. So it's all good.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you're doing it. It makes it, you know, it makes me feel like people still care, which is what you want. And you want to remember Rowan and Bo and Stevens and Chris and Sean, because they did give the ultimate sacrifice, and people still care. So that's a good thing. And so I don't see a negative on either show at all. I think these shows are extremely positive. And what you're doing right now is still positive. So if you want to be like Sarah, reach out to her and she'll put you in the right direction. But you're going to work. Believe me, she works her tail off. So get ready to work.
That's all for this episode of the Battle Line Podcast. But we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. To sign up for future Battle Line tactical courses, go to www.christantoperanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.